By now, you all know the basic facts. Jim Grant, married for 10 years to the former Linda Perutta, has 2 children, 6-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Tommy. You know about that snowy February that forced us to postpone Valentine's Day celebrations until the weather improved later in the month, on February 29th on that fateful leap year. Perhaps if there had only been 28 days in that February, this horror might have passed us by. It was Friday. The woman of my dreams became the devil in a blue dress. Dave and Dee gave him a pretty accurate description of my encounter with Linda's gang of pimps, right down to how I threw money on the table to pay for just my drink, leaving them to pay at the trader's expense. Yes, I returned to the hotel, as could be expected. I actually went back to the room we booked. I sat there, stunned, and tried to collect my thoughts. I was so shocked that I couldn't figure out what to do next. I looked at the suitcases and clothes scattered around the room. Did their presence suggest that Linda was going to be with me in a few minutes, maybe in an hour? Why are our things here if she ran off on a date with the asshole? It didn't make sense to me at all. After a few minutes, I realized there was no connection. If I die tomorrow, my clothes will still be hanging in the closet at home. No, she's gone. This realization made me feel dizzy. My stomach churned. I managed to run to the toilet, fall to my knees, and start vomiting. I rinsed my hair with cold water and collected my thoughts. Right then, I realized what my first problem was, other than my unfaithful wife. It turned out that I was paralyzed by inaction and did not know what to do next. It's been about 20 minutes since I've returned to the room, and an hour since Linda ran away. Even if asshole lived half an hour away from the club, they had probably already enjoyed their debauchery within 30 minutes, not counting the affection that might have been in his car on the way there. This thought paralyzed me for another minute. Then I shouted loudly at the top of my voice, "Damn," which did me no good, except to bring me out of my stupor. I started talking to myself. "Jimmy, let's get going. We need a plan. Do something. Do something, damn it." The first thing I decided to do was call Linda. I wasn't too proud to ruin her night. I took out my phone. There were already 3 text messages. One from a friend at work, unrelated to this story, and 2 from Dave in the last half hour. Stupid messages. "Dude, call me." "Jim, call me. We're sorry about what's going on. Let me know you're okay." There were no messages from Linda. She was probably busy. I called her number to talk. Got a voicemail. "Linda, I don't know if it's too late, but I think that in light of our 10 years of good marriage and the 2 beautiful children you gave me, I owe it to you to call to see if you still have a conscience. Let me know what to tell the children." I wasn't going to sit in my room all night and wait for her to come back. Now this room represented something terrible to me, and I decided that if I had to wait for her to finish her entertainment, I would do it in the comfort of my own home. I sat there for a few more minutes to make some immediate decisions and outline short-term plans. I packed my things and left Linda where they were. I thought about going to the front desk and checking out, but then I wondered how I could explain that I was leaving Linda's things in the room. Then I had a diabolical idea. I remembered that we had split the cost of the evening on our 2 credit cards. Linda and I used a shared card to pay for dinner. But at the reception, I left another card, which was in my name. I decided that I wouldn't pay for tonight. Linda will pay for everything, metaphorically and literally. I stopped at the counter and asked to change the card indicated for payment to the card Linda and I shared. On Monday, I planned to remove my name from this card. Linda will receive the bill in a month. I also asked to extend my stay at the hotel by a few days. I assumed that Linda would never even think of returning to the hotel after finishing her fucking. I had a car, and she would have to get home either by taxi or in asshole's car. Meanwhile, the hotel bill will continue to rise for my bitch. Now I was looking for ways to hurt Linda, and my mind went into overdrive as I carried my suitcase through the lobby doors and out into the street. I got into the car and decided to torment the lovers a little more. If my pettiness helped irritate them even a little, I was not above such pettiness. This time I sent a text. "I guess it's too late to stop you now. You made a huge mistake. Again, What do you want me to tell the kids? I went home. I walked into the house, threw my suitcase on the floor, then sat down at the kitchen table and wondered if there was anything else I could do to annoy him. I called the hotel front desk and asked that premium TV channels be added to Linda's room bill. I asked Linda to order drinks for everyone at the hotel bar. Then Dave sent me another text. Jim, you need to contact us. Dee and I are going crazy not knowing if you're okay or if you've heard from her. Did she call or text you? I texted them back. Listen, you two, leave me alone. You all had a hand in this. She didn't call me. She can't talk with something in her mouth. You're all dead to me. The answer came immediately. Jim, I said, we're sorry. I hate seeing you like this. Dee wants to know what you're going to do when Linda gets home. In case Dee was in contact with Linda, I decided to mock them all. I won't do anything when Linda gets back. I won't be there. I'm at the airport. I'm getting on a plane, and I'm not coming back. You can tell her farewell message from me. Jim, where are you going? When will you be back? I could almost feel their panic. They helped unleash a catastrophe, the scale of which was beyond their comprehension. I'm leaving the country and never coming back. My plane leaves in an hour. I never want to see you or that cheater again. If Dee knew how to contact Linda, maybe the 1-hour time limit would have interrupted their copulation. It was worth a try. Don't go. Dee doesn't know how to contact Linda. If she knew you were leaving, I'm sure she would leave Mark right away. She'll go crazy if you leave before she can talk to you. She wanted to spend one night with this guy and then fix everything. What about your children? I dug the knife deeper. Tell her that she will have to enjoy life as a single mother. And remember, you all had a hand in this. This is my last message. Goodbye. Then I went to work in the backyard. I took a shovel and found a place where the snow prevented the ground from freezing too much. I started digging around 1 a.m., and by 3 a.m., with a few coffee breaks, I had dug a hole big enough to carry out part of my plan. I was so tired from 2 hours of digging that I tried to get some sleep. But the combination of coffee and general stress kept me awake. I took a warm shower and put on something comfortable enough to relax, but also suitable for quickly jumping into action when my wife returned to the door. Time for new games with your phone. Let's see what we have here. Some more texts from Dave and Dee. Everything is the same. It looks like they were harassing Linda with calls, but to no avail. Okay, let them do my job. Maybe their persistence will bear fruit. Strange. But by this time, it became less and less important to me that Linda was not at home. If she had returned before sunrise, yes, we would have had a scandal, of course. But somehow it would have been better if she had returned later, maybe after lunch. It would give me a better reason to scream louder. So I decided to leave a few messages for myself. I wasn't planning on leaving the country, so I wasn't going to lie to her by leaving messages with such intentions. But in case she heard Dee's messages first that I was leaving for good, I wanted to leave mixed messages that would play on Dee's messages. So I started with voicemail. I locked myself in the bathroom and turned on the shower and fan. I wanted there to be enough background noise to make her think I might be in flight. I did it quickly so she wouldn't have time to recognize the sounds. Just wanted to let you know that your life as you knew it has changed. A few minutes later, I sent a text. The next stage of my life began tonight. Farewell and good luck with yours. Then it was time to get rid of Linda's things. She had her own car. It stood in our garage next to the passage from the house. My car was at the far end of the garage, so I was able to easily load her trunk with her clothes and toiletries. The first rays of morning light began to break through the trees. Linda and Asshole were probably relaxing after their marathon, or perhaps they had rested earlier and were now preparing to greet the dawn. Mrs. Porter took Emma and Tommy for the night and expected Linda and I to pick them up in the late morning. I texted her that we had an unexpected complication and asked if she could keep the kids for another 24 hours. She was shocked and hoped that nothing serious had happened. I told her to call me and I will explain everything. She called a few minutes later and I told the truth. I told her that Linda suddenly left me at the club and went with another man, spent the night with him, and, as far as I know, is still with him. She was stunned and noticed that this guy was a terrible friend. I shocked her even more by telling her that this guy was a complete stranger whom she met 10 minutes before she left with him. Moreover, I mentioned that I didn't know when Linda would be coming home and that I was trying to figure out my next steps. On the one hand, I planned a private conversation with my wife upon returning home. On the other hand, I needed to place the children with other family members. By 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, the 1st of March, I had several things organized. Ed and Gina Peritet took their grandchildren. Emma and Tommy were in good hands. Linda's car was gassed up and loaded with her essentials. There was a large garbage bag by the door and a pair of rubber gloves. A hole in the backyard was dug. I always had a baseball bat next to me. If asshole brought her back, I needed to take care of my safety. If he entered the house, I would not give him a chance to leave it. The bathroom was ready. By midday, the temperature suddenly rose to 48 degrees Fahrenheit. This is suitable weather for a picnic. I pulled out my old charcoal grill, threw a handful of charcoal on it, and splashed on some lighter fluid. I took a couple of sausages out of the refrigerator and cooked myself a nice lunch. The courtyard was on that side of the house, just outside the fence gate. On the other side of the gate, an access road began, running along the garage. I could listen to the sounds of approaching cars. I also heated the coffee on the grill. I stayed outside next to the warm grill, enjoying the sunshine. About 10 minutes before 1 p.m., I heard a car pull up. It was time to act. I entered the house through the back door, through the kitchen, and out into the front room. I stood at the large window to the side of the front door and watched the black Mercedes SUV parked in my driveway. The car windows were so tinted that I couldn't see what was happening there. I could only guess. They were clearly in no hurry to say goodbye, express love, or plan their next meeting or whatever it was they were doing. To pass the time, I checked my phone. Still the same messages from Dee and Dave. A message from Linda's parents. Still nothing from Linda. She either turned off her phone, didn't listen to messages, or simply didn't respond to them. Then I noticed a little activity. The asshole came out of the driver's door, walked around the car, and opened the passenger door. A beaming Linda emerged from there, still in the blue dress she wore for me on our special night. I had to control myself. I needed to release my rage to carry out my plan, but at the same time not let that rage lead to mistakes. She put her arm around Lavaliere's neck and, standing on tiptoe, kissed him tenderly on the cheek. He hugged her waist and gallantly kissed her on the cheek. At least there wasn't a cheesy show for the neighbors. She took a graceful step back, cheerfully waving goodbye to him as he walked back to the driver's door. As she turned towards the house, her joyful smile gave way to an expression of worry and concern. She knew she was in for trouble. She just didn't realize how serious it was. I remained where I was by the window, where the curtains hid my presence. I heard the key turn in the lock, and then the sound of air as she opened the door. She looked back one last time and waved, then closed the door, just as the car pulled out of the driveway. I came out of the shadows and made it clear that I was here. Linda screamed and put her hand to her chest, then relaxed a little. "Hi, Jim, I'm home." I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I looked at her without any expression. "Yes, Linda, I see. Honey, I understand that you're probably not happy with me, and I understand that we'll have to go through some difficulties. But really, honey, it's still the same me. It's still the same. It's over, it's over. Past, and now we can move on." "Okay, Linda, you say it is over and gone, so I have questions, and I'm waiting for answers. What exactly is it that is over and gone?" "Come on, Jim. Don't make me say it. It was a moment out of time, a few hours out of our 10 wonderful years together, an even smaller amount of time when measured against all the wonderful years that lie ahead of us." "Well, madam, you seem to be more optimistic about the future than I am, so I'll ask you the question a second time." "Jim, please, can I sit down? Then we can talk." At that moment, I took the baseball bat that was standing against the wall under the window in the front room and moved it to the other side of my body so that it was now visible to my unfaithful wife in the hallway. She looked worried, which suited me. I won't let her pass. Then I continued, "You want to sit down. Poor thing. You must be so tired after all our dancing in the club. After all your dancing with that asshole. After all your activities during our special night." I frowned. She became even more nervous. "Well, Mrs. Grant, let me tell you how it's going to happen. You're not going to sit down. You're going to stay here and listen to what I have to say. I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to demand answers. Not excuse answers, not half answers, not answers outs. Before we continue, you need to know what's coming for you. It's going to go badly for you, so you can put it out of your head. No, it's going to go badly for you. And that's if I like what I hear. If I start getting excuses, things will go very, very bad for you, beyond your wildest imagination. So, I ask again, what exactly is it? Which is over and gone? What were you doing with Mark Lavalier that he brought you home at this hour? Jim, I know you're upset, but I spent the evening with him, like I told Dee to tell you that I love you, and that I'll make it up to you when I get back, and suddenly my rage flared up. I grabbed Linda's dress by the lapels with both hands and pushed her back towards the front door. I hissed, "Listen, bitch, I asked you a damn question." In all our years together, I had never spoken to her like that. She turned pale. Then I picked her up by the armpits and pushed her towards the door again. Her legs hung 30 centimeters from the floor. She saw the rage in my eyes. She began to tremble. I raised my voice to a menacing growl. "What have you been doing all night and until this morning with that piece of crap?" I shook her slightly to alert her. Before her first tear had time to fall, she had already wet herself. We, Mark and we slept together, had sex. Oh, Jim. And then the tears started. I knew she was urinating out of pure terror, but I was on a roll and decided to take advantage of her incontinence. "You had so little respect for me that you brought his abomination back to me." This gave me the answer I needed. "No, no, please, Jim, darling, believe me, I washed myself. I showered 3 times at his house, and there was not a trace of him left in me. Please believe me. Dee told me that everything would be okay, that we would get through this because our love was strong enough to overcome this." "Linda, when did you talk to Dee?" Now I took her at her word. "At the club, Jim." When exactly? She knew this answer would lead to a topic she would rather avoid, so she hesitated. But I wasn't going to put up with it. I slowly lowered her to the ground and pointed my finger at her chest. I growled menacingly. "When exactly?" "When I left with her. When she walked me to the back door. Mark was waiting with my coat and Dee told me to have a good time and that she would take care of everything. That when I got home today, you're all you'll understand and we'll get through this. She promised. She promised that everything would be okay. So this conversation with Dee was right after you lied to my face and said you and her were going to freshen up if I'm not mistaken. Looks like you were freshening up at Asshole's shower. I'm not sure that's all. You're as clean as you should be. By the way, where's your phone?" "It's in my bag." "Why didn't you answer the messages?" Linda couldn't look me in the eyes. "Jim, honey, I didn't listen to the messages. I just put everything on pause. I walked away from my life for one night. I thought it could wait until I got back." By this point, I was so furious that I was determined to hurt her as much as possible, and I didn't hesitate to tell her the most blatant lie I could think of to achieve maximum effect. "You stupid damn cow. Nothing can wait. Your children, Linda. Your own damn children." Her eyes lit up with alarm. "What's wrong with the kids? They're at Mrs. Porter's, right? They're not here, are they?" "No, you're right. Mrs. Porter has them. Her house burned down last night. Everyone died. It's not like we could get through to you. Your kids were calling for you while they were dying in the hospital. We couldn't get through to you. I told them that Mom won't come to visit them, that Mom spends the night with another man. They died disappointed and abandoned while that asshole had sex with you. She was in such shock that I needed to move on. I stomped my foot and screamed, "Get your damn phone out now and read the messages. Out loud. Right now." While she was moaning about her dead children, she read my messages, which were the only ones that really mattered. The messages from Dee were just for Linda to call her back. Nothing about the children dying. I told her to turn on voicemail and play it on speakerphone. While she sat on the floor, hugging her knees to her chest and sobbing for her children, rocking in a puddle of her own urine, we listened. Dee was panicking and told Linda that I was going to get on a plane in an hour and leave forever, that her marriage was over, that they had seriously underestimated how much I would take it, and so on. By the end of the last message, her sobs became quieter, and her eyes widened as she realized that there was no message from me about any emergency with the children. "You said you were trying to leave messages about the kids." I lied. "The kids are fine, they're with your parents, but you have sex even if there's something urgent going on. If we needed you, we wouldn't be able to find you." "Oh, thank God, thank God." "You bastard. Why did you tell me that my children were dead? That's just evil." "Shut up, Linda. You have no right to teach me about evil. You were cruel and mean to me last night. You humiliated me. You lied to my face about refreshing. I will hurt you in any way I damn well want." "Bitch, get up off the floor." She struggled to her feet. I picked up a trash bag that was standing nearby and opened it. "Throw your phone here, bitch." "What? Why do you need my phone?" "It's polluted." "Jim, this is wrong. He never even touched my phone. It never came out of my bag." "I don't know that. Everything you brought into his house is covered in his abomination. Your word on this matter is worth nothing to me. I don't believe a single word that comes out of your lying mouth. You lied to me about that you're going to refresh yourself." "Liar. Phone," she cried again, throwing the phone into the bag. "Well, bitches clearly know how to accessorize. It's an accessible woman's bag lying there in your puddle of urine, right? In the bag now." "Wait, honey, no. It's got all my stuff. My keys, cash, my driver's license and credit cards. The bracelet Emma made for me at school." "So you desecrated the bracelet that your own daughter made. You brought that asshole's abomination there, so don't pretend like it's some kind of treasure for you. You damn cesspool, in the bag. Now." Linda sobbed in fear when I gave the command. The whole bag went into the trash bag. "Well, look at these dirty shoes. You danced in them, didn't you? You danced with your loving husband in them. Then you danced with random strangers in them, too. Then you snuck out the back door in them to go study sex with random strangers. He made you wear them while he slept with you." She just looked down, cried quietly, closed her eyes, and nodded her head in agreement. "Dirty shoes go in a bag," she obeyed. "I saved the best for last." She watched with alarm as I put on rubber gloves. I ordered her to take a step towards me. I grabbed her dress by the neckline and, with a wild cry, tore it into pieces. She was left completely naked. She screamed like it was a scene from Psycho. I held scraps of her clothes in my gloved hands. I continued to insult her so that she would not miss the significance of what was happening. "Have you noticed that I can't even touch these contaminated clothes with my bare hands? Open the trash bag so I can put the bitch's dress in it. That's it. Keep it open, bitch." She was shaking to such an extent that she could barely cope with the task. I had to help hold the bag open as I threw the dress into it. "You made such a show of that special blue dress. You wouldn't let me see it until I took you out dancing in it. You're a damn cheater. You wore it to go and have sex with another man. Now I have to ask the obvious question. Where are your bra and panties?" I only received sobs, quiet sobs, and pitiful moans in response. "Listen, you damn bitch, I asked you a damn question." I took a threatening step towards her, and she jumped back, almost slipping in her puddle of urine. Okay, don't hurt me. Oh, I don't care, just beat me." He took them. He wanted them. Wow, he took the trophies. Now you have a place in this guy's bitch hall of fame. You should be so proud, Linda. We should have a family day, bring Emma and Tommy, get everyone cleaned up and tidy, get your parents. Bring them all to Asshole's house and show them your underwear that he hung on the wall. Maybe there will be a brass plaque with your name next to it. You disgust me. She covered her face with her hands in shame and began to cry. And then I saw on her finger the sparkling rings that I put on her 10 years ago. I took her hand, which she apparently took as a gesture of consolation, and tore the rings off her finger. She yelped in pain. Then I grabbed a trash bag, turned on my heel, and walked out the back door. She followed me, clearly worried about what would happen next. Maybe she just wanted to get away from the wet floor. Or maybe she wanted her rings back. She keeps repeating, "My rings, my rings." She watched as I emptied the contents of the trash bag into the hole I had dug in the middle of the night. Wearing rubber gloves, I placed the bag in the center of the hole, opened it, and threw the phone into it. I placed her shoes on either side of the bag, then walked over to the grill. I took a can of lighter fluid and splashed it on my shoes and into my open bag. Then I threw the lit match. I turned around and enjoyed the look of horror on her face. She burned my marriage and my family. Today, in my little mind, symbolism played a vital role. She was losing the entire contents of her bag, and yet it seemed to me that at that moment she was experiencing the loss of something much more significant. She just stood in the doorway screaming hysterically, "No, Jim, no, I'm so sorry, everything should have been fine. Dee said so. Oh God, please, you must hate me. It was just supposed to be one night. Please." "Oh no, you're burning it. Oh God, no, no, you're burning. You're burning. What have I done?" She looked with wide eyes. Since symbolism was of great importance in my little performance, I ceremoniously removed her blue dress from the bag for the finale. Keeping it away from the fire, I sprayed some liquid onto the cloth. Then, in a somber tone, as if it were a pagan ritual, I said, "You wore this dress for our special night, as a symbol of our love for each other. Well, that's what you did to our special night and to our love." And I threw the dress on the dying fire, which shot up with a new burst of flame. "This is what you did to our family, Linda." Then I picked up her wedding and engagement rings. "I bet you didn't even take them off. He made you touch him with those rings on your fingers, didn't he?" "I'm so sorry, Jim. I wasn't thinking. I love these rings. I'll take them to the jeweler to have them cleaned." "Sorry, Linda. These rings are defiled, and all the cleaning in the world will not make them clean again." With these words, the rings were thrown onto the burning dress, and, for greater effect, I sprinkled a little liquid around the rings, and the flames of hell shot up into the air. And with that, she howled in agony and collapsed onto the cold kitchen floor, where she remained naked, rocking and sobbing while I tended to the ashes. Then I took her hand and dragged her upstairs. I led her into the bedroom, where she couldn't help but notice the chainsaw lying on the bed. She began to beg for mercy. She mentioned children. "Don't you dare mention our children's names. I don't want my beautiful children's names said by a bitch who is pleasing that asshole. Don't you dare." At this point, she seemed to have lost all hope. She suddenly fell silent, knelt down, closed her eyes, and crossed herself. Such a good Catholic girl. She resigned herself to fate and tried to come to terms with her inevitable death. The roar of the chainsaw quickly brought her back to reality. With wild fury, I attacked the mattress, the box spring, and the bed frame itself. She chose it with the money they gave us for our wedding. I turned it all into pieces. I opened the window and threw the debris onto the patio. Her dresser was already empty, as was mine. The dressers and her dressing table were reduced to firewood. She vacillated between hysteria and resignation, brought on by the exhaustion that can be expected from spending more time having sex than sleeping for the past 30 hours since she woke up in our now ruined bed. The brushwood flew out the window. An early March breeze blew through the open window, sending splinters swirling across our bedroom floor. In fact, that was all that was left on the floor of our former bedroom. Slivers and my naked wife. By this time, she was so traumatized that she probably didn't even realize she was naked anymore. I took her downstairs to the kitchen and walked out the door to the dying fire. Shards of furniture from the bedroom were piled on top of the ashes left over from the bag, shoes, and dress. The ring was now buried. Another splash of lighter fluid, another match, and another howl of despair from my devil in a blue dress. No, Jim, you have to stop. I see that I hurt you. Why are you destroying everything? You stupid bitch. You're the one who destroyed everything. But the bed, the chests of drawers, why? Why? Because last night probably wasn't the first time. You're a prostitute, and you're probably having sex with other guys in our bed and desecrating the whole place. God, no, Jim. Last night was the only time I slipped up. And this morning. You had sex with him this morning. You can't stop lying, can you? Left to freshen up. You could swear on a stack of Bibles that you've never had another man in our bed. But the problem is that, St. Linda, your word is now worthless. When I was sure there was nothing left in the hole, I took a shovel, walked over to the pile of dirt, and filled the hole back up. Firmly compacting the soil with a shovel, I looked up at Linda's mournful face, with her lower lip trembling. Well, Linda, everything is dead and buried. I returned to the house, still wearing rubber gloves. I liked how menacing they looked. My main goal was to make her suffer and keep her afraid. So, Linda, what to do with you? What to do? What to do? She backed away across the kitchen floor. I'm sure her whole life was flashing before her eyes right now. I spoke to her with a sharp edge in my voice and a dead look in my eyes. She sat on the kitchen floor, frozen in horror. Get on your feet, bitch. No reaction. Nothing. With my rubber gloves on, I grabbed her by the hair and helped her stand up. To the bathroom. Now. Without letting go of her hair, I led her up the stairs and finally pushed her into the bathroom. On your knees. Now. She fell to her knees and sobbed quietly. I took the scissors, grabbed her shoulder-length hair, and cut it off almost right at the head. How well do you remember the story, Linda? Sob, sob. I took an electric clipper. You know, the French girls of easy virtue who betrayed their country by sleeping with the Nazi occupiers. I cut it almost to the skin. After the Germans were expelled from Paris, the French bitches had their heads shaved as a sign of their shame, so that everyone would know how dirty they were. Well, your defiler will no longer come to save you. Therefore, you will receive the mark of a traitor. The whole world will see you for who you really are, a treacherous traitor. She saw her reflection in the mirror. A bald head didn't suit her. She saw the leaking cosmetics. The makeup that she had applied so diligently after her last shower at Asshole's house was running down her face. She looked like a rabid animal. Her chest, thighs, and buttocks were covered in bite marks and bruises. Wow, Linda, your lover really marked his territory. Just look at you. What a triumphant night you had. These marks will be your souvenir. They won't go away for a long time. Let's make sure your parents and children see the peace art of Asshole. He's not my boyfriend. I thought it was a triumph at the time. It turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. Yes, a mistake for life, I thought, turning on the bath water. A mistake that will cost you until your last breath. Then, to add to the spookiness, I started whistling a tune cheerfully while checking the temperature of the water. Damn, why did I do this? I should just throw this thing into ice water. Damn, I still love that bitch. We'll have to work with this. I ordered her, and she sat in the bath. Linda, I'm not sure you've gotten rid of all your lover's dirt or the filth left in your dirty cavities. You'll lie in this water as long as I tell you, and it will be a long time. If the water gets cold, you can add hot water. You can use the toilet if you suddenly feel the need, but then go straight back to the bathroom. I'll check on you from time to time. And don't think about abusing your toilet privileges if I catch you doing it. Jim, dear, don't you dare call me darling. You're a bag of bacteria. She suddenly laughed. Ha, a bag of bacteria. You know, I even like it. That's the nicest thing you've said to me since I got back. I also chuckled slightly at the change of mood. All this rage was starting to wear me down. I had been awake more than Linda, and fatigue was starting to take its toll. This has always been the case with Linda and me. We became silly when we were tired, but I needed to control myself. I needed complete power here. If Linda felt even the slightest bit of control, she would undermine and manipulate me. I couldn't let that happen. My trust in her was zero, so I couldn't count on her to think about anything other than her own interests. I left her to refresh. She tried to speak in a sweet voice. Jim, Jim, please come back. Don't leave me here alone. I easily went back into rage mode. Not leaving you alone? Is that the rule for today? I thought after last night the rule was to leave your spouse alone. So what's the rule, Linda? Do I have to be faithful and be there for you? Or should I just leave and not care about your feelings? Oh God, Jim, I know that's exactly what I did to you. No, you stupid bitch. When I walk down the stairs, I do it without anyone watching. I go make myself a sandwich. I don't run off with a complete stranger and have sex with her all night. I don't call you to let you know where I am. Or when I get back. I know. Damn, I made a huge mistake, like you said in your message. And you said that my life as I knew it was over. That was the worst message. I've never seen it like that. I saw it as a small obstacle to the adventure. I imagined that everything could be fixed. I imagined that you were resilient and our marriage was strong. I never thought that I could cause such damage that could not be repaired, but it seems that I did. Damn. My life is over as I knew it, so I feel like my life is over. I should just dive under here and make it official. And the quiet sobs began again. Considering her crying and urinating, I would have thought that all that was left of her was dust. I held back my trembling and said coldly that I would go pick up Emma and Tommy and bring them here. I'll let the kids find your body in the bathroom. We'll be back in an hour. Do you think you'll make it in time? And the complaints began again. Where did she get all these tears from? No, no, no. Forget it. Don't let the kids see me like this. I won't commit suicide, even though right now I feel like I want to die. I understand that, Linda. That's exactly how I've felt since Dee told me you left the club to have sex and ruined our marriage. She howled, and I went to make myself a hot cheese sandwich. The scent must have reached her upstairs because I heard her calling me to the bathroom again. Damn it, can't you just enjoy a cheese sandwich in peace? I even added bacon and chopped tomatoes. I walked up the stairs heavily. What now, Linda? Jim, it must be 4 p.m. or something like that. It's not 3 yet. What do you want, Linda? Damn, this all feels like it's been going on for hours. I'm hungry. I'm just starting to notice it with everything that's going on. Didn't you have breakfast and lunch with your lover? What, he can entertain you, but he can't feed you. What a prince, a true gentleman, a knight in shining armor. You really know how to choose, Linda. I thought he fed you enough sex to keep you from eating for a week. No, he didn't feed me. He fed me lies, just like Dee. She's probably his damn pimp. But no, Jim. Chicken wings last night were the last thing I ate. I'm tired. I didn't sleep, understandably. Reasons. I'm exhausted from all this drama since I got home. I'm devastated by all these tears, and I haven't eaten. I'm ready to die, even though I don't want to. What you cooked smelled so good. Please help me, Jim. I left and came back with a cold slice of cheese between 2 pieces of white bread straight from the package. She looked at it and then at me like she was expecting filet mignon. Then I saw how the expression on her face gave way to the realization that there would be no special concessions from me in the foreseeable future. With humility, she accepted this prison ration and ate it like a wolf devouring a sheep. I took a paper cup from the bathroom dispenser and poured her water from the tap. I think she got the hint. After getting wet for another 30 minutes, she called me again and asked how long it would last. You will stay here until I am sure that all the filth of your lover will be washed away from you. I saw her look down and nodded sadly, realizing that the idea of refreshment would now play a central role in our communication. It would be a metaphor for her duplicity, her deception, her betrayal, her lies. And, as in this case, it will become a constant reminder of her impurity. She stood up while I flushed the water, and then I filled the tub again. "Sit down." She sat down obediently. Yes, I treated her like a dog, but she knew better than to complain. She would have to pay for what she did to me, and she knew that. After everything I've already put her through, she was probably surprised that she was still alive. And that's exactly how I treated her from the moment she came home. Now Linda had become a woman of few words, and that was understandable. She seemed afraid to talk to me any more than was absolutely necessary. So, with some trepidation, she called me again. Damn it, I was sitting in my chair trying to take a nap for the first time in I don't know how long. Jim, honey, please. Grunt, stomping up the stairs. What else do you want? I've been sitting in this bath for ages. It's only a little over an hour, but keep going. How long are you going to keep me in the water? Let's see, you were with that asshole from the time you took his hand on the dance floor until you kissed him goodbye today in our yard. That was, what, let's round it up to 16 hours, right? Sobs. Well, everything was a blur. I lost track of time until I looked at the clock and told him I had to go home. So, if you say 16 hours have passed, then I don't. I'll argue. You've been in his arms since 9 o'clock this evening, and he didn't throw you away until 1 o'clock this afternoon. So yeah, 4 o'clock. Agreed? Okay. Great. I think 3 hours of soaking for every hour his hands touched you should be enough to wash away all the dirt that's clinging to you, especially since it's not just his hands I'm worried about. 3 hours. Oh my God, Jim. What is this? Let's see, 3 times 6. That turns out to be 48 hours. 48 hours? Do I have to sit in this bathtub for 2 days? Of course, but what? Do you have more important things to do? Yes, I need to see my children. Those kids you didn't care about when you had sex. Look, Linda, you did more than just abandon me, humiliate me, and destroy me. You disrespected everything you now claim to hold dear. When you peed on me, you pissed on our marriage, which means you pissed on your family. So now that you're done with it, when you're done desecrating them, when you're done showing them your complete disdain, only now, suddenly, you're starting to worry about them. You'll only see them again because I likely won't have the final say on the matter in the long run. Of course, I can keep them away. You for a short time, and since you are a bad influence, I would like nothing from you to influence them. And I don't want Tommy to see me put up with your abusive attitude towards me. I have to teach him a lesson in self-respect. But enough about that, I'm getting bored and have a lot to do. You're right, 2 days in the bath is too much, especially considering that I have to keep an eye on this, and I'm already tired of wasting energy on your worthless ass. So I'll give you option B. I'll give you what you didn't give me last night at the club. I'll give you a choice. Very generous of me under these circumstances. Jim, just tell me, will this choice be unpleasant? Of course it will. I told you from the moment you walked in here today that this would end badly for you. And with these words, I turned off the water and turned on the shower. I picked up a nylon brush and a bar of soap, and he began to scrub it. She fidgeted and moaned pitifully from discomfort. I thoroughly washed her hands, back, and legs. I grabbed my naked future ex-wife from the shower and put her back in front of the mirror. She gasped when she saw her reflection, bald, bite marks, bruises, brush marks, and horror in her eyes. When she was dry, I threw her a sheet. She wrapped herself in it, and I led her down through the kitchen, grabbing my coat, phone, and keys. I pushed her into the garage and threw her into the car, and off we went. On the way, I called her parents' house and got to her father. Hey, Ed, it's Jim. How are the kids? Everything's fine. Listen, Jim, what's going on there? Has she returned home? Yes, Ed, she came back. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Her new boyfriend brought her. Damn, Jim, is everything okay? No, Ed, I'm sorry, but no. Here's what you'll need to do. I'll be at your place in 20 minutes to deliver your daughter. I won't come in. I'll signal when I arrive, and you'll be ready to go out and pick her up. Then I'll give you 5 minutes from the time I arrive to help Gina calm Linda down, and then you take your coat and come out to my car. Then we'll go and I'll tell you what's going on. Sorry for being so direct and demanding, Ed, but the situation is serious. See you soon. Okay, Jimmy, let's talk. Linda shivered, trying to stay warm as the car slowly warmed up. A cotton sheet doesn't help much when you're barefoot and naked and the car seats are cold. I broke the speed limit mainly because I was sick of her moaning, her apologies, her "it was just one night," and her "D said everything would be fine," and her "I only love you." I burst onto Ed and Gina's country road, slammed on the brakes, honked my horn, and pushed her out of the car, throwing her to the ground by the arm, the way John Wayne threw Maureen O'Hara in The Quiet Man. Her father came out of the house just in time to see her roll, naked and bald, out of the sheets. Any doubts he might have had about the seriousness of the situation were erased when she stopped. He ran to get the sheet, called his wife, helped Linda return to some semblance of modesty, and led her into the house while Gina held the door. Of course, not without giving me a death glare. 5 minutes, Ed, 5 minutes. He returned to the car 3 minutes later. My window was down, and I yelled at my father-in-law to get in. Jim, what the hell did you do to my girl? I started the car and outlined the protocol. Ed, this is serious. You've known me for a long time, and you understand that I had a reason for this. I know you want to strangle me for what you just saw, but here are the rules. It will take me all the way back home to tell you need to know. Try not to interrupt. Questions later. I know you're angry about what you saw. I'm going to make you even more angry by telling the story. I'm going to make you angry on purpose, because right now I'm angry and I want to, so that you feel my rage, fully understand what is happening inside me. Then, when we arrive, you can strangle me if you decide that I deserve it. I won't even resist if you put me out of my misery. I put the car in gear and drove off, leaving my problem behind, at least for the time being, in a cloud of dust. Ed, I'm going to try to put you in my place. As much as I can, you will feel my pain. Imagine, Ed, it's Valentine's Day, but the weather is bad. So you and Gina decide to stay home. She made a beautiful new dress especially for this evening. It should be your special evening. But because of the weather, which has turned bad, you put on sweatpants and stay at home. You want to see a special dress, but Gina says that this special dress is only for you. Only for your special one. Evenings. You'll have to wait until you have a special evening to see this dress. And then, 2 weeks later, the weather improves, so you and a few couples have a belated Valentine's party. And then, last night, on the last day of February, you manage to do it. Dinner in Madison, and then dancing at the Morrison Club down the street. Everyone is booking rooms for the night at the Excelsior Hotel across the street, so everyone can have fun and not have to worry about the trip. You don't have little kids, Ed, but imagine Emma and Tommy are your little kids. We have a babysitter down the street. Sits with them for the night. It will be a night of romance with a woman you adore. The woman you are sure adores you just as much. And you will finally see Gina in that very special dress. Just for you. Special sexy lingerie. She is the most beautiful woman in the club. There is something special about her today that makes her so beautiful, and what that does to you. All eyes are on Gina, and you are the proudest man in the world. Everyone is looking at you with Gina, and they think you're the luckiest guy on the planet. Some guys in your group ask Gina to dance, but she politely refuses. She saves all her dancing for you. Ed, it's your special night. After a few dances, a few drinks, and a few chicken wings, you and Gina look at each other tenderly, holding hands, counting the minutes until you retire to your hotel room, the moment when you can finally make love to the beautiful lady in blue dress, the love of your life. And suddenly, a complete stranger comes up to her, taps her on the shoulder, and asks her to dance. He doesn't even ask you if you can, and she doesn't ask if you mind. She forgets you exist. She throws your hand away like she was hot. She takes his hand and dances with him, including a few slow dances where she melts into his arms, and they whisper to each other. You're furious and jump up, but your friends at the table tell you to let her. Enjoy this fantasy dance because the guy is a local sports star. By this point, Ed was almost out of breath, his eyes wide. I need to ask Jimmy. Mark Lavalier. Can't be. Okay, shut up and let me finish. The women at your table are rooting for Gina because they are closet sellout bitches who want to live out their fantasy through Gina. Everyone else in this place is watching some jerk dance with your beautiful wife. Then, finally, this bastard returns Gina to the table and leaves, not even paying attention to you. And then Gina starts sending desperate signals with her eyes to her bitch friend across the table. And the friend takes Gina away, asking her to go to the toilet with her. Then the friend comes back from the toilet without Gina, and you ask where she is. And the friend tells you that Gina walked out the back door of the club and got into Mark Lavalier's car, and now they're heading to his house, where she'll spend the night having sex with him. Are you getting angry, Ed? Jesus Christ. She couldn't. No. Ed, imagine everyone in the club knows this. This guy does this all the time, and the regulars and staff know what just happened. Your friends at the table know. This whole bunch of people are looking at you. They saw your wife leaves right under your nose. Now you are humiliated and disgraced. You run away from the club in shame. You come home to an empty house. You are completely abandoned. By this point, Ed could almost feel the walls closing in around him as I guided him through his nightmare. You try to call Gina, but she doesn't answer the phone. You imagine her taking off that beautiful blue dress that she put on just for you. You torture yourself, wondering what she's doing. On your special night, you send her messages. The hours go by and the loneliness becomes unbearable. The pain is merciless. The mother of your children. Ed, I prepared for Linda's return. I didn't know if she would be back in 2 hours or in 2 months. I dug a hole in the backyard. I put her things in her car. I gathered certain items that I would need when she returned. She was with some strange man, not thinking about you, about me, about your wife, about your grandchildren. She finally returned home before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She was with him from the dance to the landing for a total of 16 hours. I made her pay. I let her know that I was going to seriously injure her or even kill her. I released my rage. I tore that special blue dress from her body. She was naked with him. She left her underwear with him as a souvenir. I took everything she had on, her shoes, her bag, everything that this bastard could touch, which I dug up in the backyard. I cut our bed and all the furniture in our bedroom into pieces, threw it all out the window, and put it all in the same hole, filled everything with lighter fluid and burned everything. I even threw her wedding rings into the fire. I treated her like the Parisian easy girls who had sex with Nazis. I shaved her head. I made her sit in a bathtub of water for 2 hours. I didn't trust her not to bring his DNA into my house. I took a brush and cleaned her naked body. I did all this with rubber gloves. I wrapped her cheating ass in a sheet, took her to your house, and threw her useless body on your porch. She lied to me, Ed. She lied that the blue dress was for me. She lied that she loved me. She lied that it was our special night. She fucking lied to my face that she was going to the bathroom to freshen up. Ed, imagine if Gina did this to you. By then, we were 2 minutes from my house. We finished the ride in silence. I parked and turned off the engine. I told Ed to come with me. He smelled dried urine as soon as we entered the house. She peed on the floor when I ripped that damn dress off her. Follow me. I showed him around the house. I led him into the bedroom, where sawdust was all that remained from the destruction. There was also a chainsaw. I took him to the backyard. I made him help me roll a boulder over a filled hole. I didn't want Linda rummaging around for her rings. The marriage was dead and buried. This was his tombstone. There you go, Ed. I promised you the chance to strangle me, so here you go. Oh, but first, let me give you something. I went to the key holder in the kitchen and handed him Linda's spare car key. All her stuff is in the car. Clothes, makeup, books, photos, you name it. She's yours now, so take her car home and give her all her stuff. Jimmy, if it turns out she did half the things you described, I don't want her in my house. and I'm sorry for everything you've been through. I think I'll hold off on it for now. To choke you." And so he left, taking Linda's car and her earthly belongings. As for me, I had to pick up the pieces of my life. Ed called me that night. He wanted to tell me everything about Linda's condition. He was especially impressed by her shaved head. He said that if Gina did that to him, she wouldn't have any head left to shave. I told him I would come by Sunday morning to pick up the kids. I didn't want them to spend too much time with Linda in her current state. I needed to get their lives back on track. In their rooms. In their house. On Sunday afternoon, I visited them. Ed looked at me with respect. Gina's eyes sparkled. Perhaps, like Dean Molloy, she was jealous of Linda for her affair with the attractive athlete. Perhaps she thought my reaction was too medieval. Linda sat at the kitchen table, nervously sipping her tea. She was wearing a flannel robe that I didn't recognize. It probably belonged to her mother. Her shaved head was covered with a scarf. With her sunken eyes, she looked like a cancer patient. She tried to talk to me. Jim, I'm so sorry I hurt you. We're done, right?" I calmly replied, "That's right." Then I turned to my only ally in that house, Ed. "Are the kids ready, Ed?" Gina chimed in. "They're watching Frozen on the TV in the living room. Jim, I don't want to lose my grandchildren over this." "Gina, don't worry. You'll always be able to see them. In fact, with me transitioning to being a single dad and Linda becoming a single mom, you'll probably have more time with them in the future than before." The prospect of single motherhood and the implied divorce was too much for Linda, and she began to sob. "What are you going to tell the kids about me, Jim? They'll ask, you know." "Linda, I will tell the children the truth about you, but only to the extent that they can understand it. It is not as if they were 30 years old, and I could tell them that their mother is a cheater, and they would understand exactly what I mean. No, such conversations can wait until they know what sex is, what love is, and what an easy girl is. For now, I will talk about how important it is to tell the truth, and that mom doesn't know how to do this. I will tell them that keeping promises is the rule of our house, and that mom cannot follow this rule. I will tell them that you are a good mother, but a bad wife, and that a bad wife cannot live our home. As they get older, they'll start to connect the dots and get a full picture of who you really are." With these words, she threw her head on the kitchen table and burst into tears. I told her to pull herself together if she hoped to say goodbye to her children without unnecessary trauma. She got ready. Before leaving, I reminded her that her things were still in the hotel room. She looked at me as if I had 3 heads. "Jim, didn't you take my things home? I didn't even think." "No, you idiot. You didn't think so. From the moment you agreed to dance with that idiot, your existence became one giant brain failure. When I stayed in that hotel room, staring at the wall and crying while you had sex with Captain America, doing something nice for you was low on my list of priorities. My things are at home. Your suitcase is still where you left it. It might still be there if the maid didn't touch anything. And there's a charge for each day. It's on your credit card. I gave them our shared card at the front desk after you set me up, and tomorrow I'll remove my name from the card. You should probably ask. My father will take you there to pick up your things and check out. I will never set foot in that building again, no matter how long I live." I took out my room key and threw it on the table. "Tick-tock, you stupid bitch. Tick-tock." I picked up Emma and Tommy and returned home. Ordered pizza for dinner, gave them a bath, read them stories, and put them to bed. They will face challenges, but I will do everything I can to help them get through it. Then I opened the computer and ordered a new bed and dresser. For myself, I texted Mrs. Porter that I would like to discuss long-term care for my children and that she would call me after 10 a.m. I needed to get Emma ready for school and Tommy for kindergarten. I texted my boss, Melanie Vandervelt, and told her the simplified version of my new home situation, asking for a few days off to get things straightened out. She was a divorced mother herself and could understand. Melanie said to take as much time as needed and to call her if she needed help. Mrs. Porter and I met after I dropped the kids off at school. She came for coffee. She winced when she entered. I need to do something about the urine smell. We sat down with our groups in the living room and discussed an arrangement that would ensure the kids would be ready for school, met with snacks and games, and generally supervised until I returned from work. It cost a lot of money to get such a commitment from Mrs. Porter, who was self-employed. But I managed to arrange it. Ed and Gina helped, and sometimes my parents would come from out of town and give others a break. The first time the Perrots brought Linda to her former home, I was not there. Mrs. Porter handed over the children and went home. I came home from work expecting to see Ed, Gina, and the kids. But Linda was there too. Almost a month passed, and her hair began to grow back. They were only an inch or so long, as I could see under the headscarf she was still wearing. We exchanged greetings that could be described as neutral. It was progress. Jim, I looked around. I think I forgot that I don't live here anymore, and, out of habit, I walked through the house as if I were still its owner. I see you have a new bed and the chest of drawers in our bedroom. Or rather, in your bedroom. It was somehow a visual confirmation of what I had already imagined. It was a shock to me, my system. Well, Linda, there's no need to spend too much time describing what a shock is. My stomach hasn't been the same since you went to freshen up. So yes, this is my new reality, and you'll always be welcome here. Yours, the kids live here, and I'll let you see them as long as you don't bring your boyfriend here or do any other lewd acts in front of them and walk around the house as much as you want. Jim, I don't have any boyfriend. He doesn't mean anything. He was a distraction. It was a day trip to the theme park. You're all I need. Yes, except that night. Then you wanted to get away from me. You didn't just forget about me or ignore me. You thought about exactly how to free yourself from me so you could have sex with another man. And now you can claim that you want to return to me. You can claim that this will never happen again. You can claim that now you will be a perfect wife for the rest of your life. And all I have to do is believe you. So I don't believe you, that I'm all you need. Who knows when you'll need refreshment again? Never again, Jim. Well, yes, that's what you say, bitch. That's what you say. The tension began to rise again. This was not progress. Nevertheless, life went on. But life for me often meant being stuck in the past moment, and that was usually the worst moment. That is, I could lie on my back in bed at night and look at the ceiling, and I saw them dance. Or I saw two bitches signal that it was time to go to the toilet. Or I imagined her doing some dirty thing with her lover. Still, I needed to sleep. I needed to work. My vacation had come to an end and Melanie expected me to find balance. I began to adjust to the pace of life that my new support system allowed. Mothers-in-law, parents, Mrs. Porter, even Linda. Her hair was growing to a manageable length, and the former housewife was thinking about getting a job. There was no divorce. Neither of us had any dates. We were both too traumatized by our special evening and its aftermath. The story of lavaliers stealing their wives from their husbands was not new. After I did some research, I was able to find out that he had destroyed 6 marriages since he moved to our city 4 years ago, that 4 other marriages were on the verge of collapse, and that several more miraculously survived. Before he came here, he played 2 seasons on the West Coast. I had old friends from college who were big NFL fans, and it turns out the locals there knew about his antics. Of course, these were all just rumors. Local media hushed up his mischief. So he was an old dog, and these tricks were familiar to him. I started looking for the names and contact information of the injured husbands. I offered some cash and gift cards at Morrison's bar and other lavalier hunting spots. I was able to find out the names of some of his victims. My story got more attention than others. From what I learned, it had to do with the situation itself, with the performance. This bastard always chose a beautiful wife who seemed to be happy with her husband. Unhappy wives were too easy prey for him, and he liked the challenge. Perhaps the feeling of reward was greater. But he often did it in such a way that many people in the club didn't even know what was going on. But let's get back to the performance. Damn blue dress. Every eye in this place was on her, on them, on me. Because Linda was such a beauty, even the most indifferent visitor that evening noticed her seduction. People soon learned who Linda was and who I was, and this higher-than-usual visibility did not play into Lavaliere's hands. Local media were in trouble. His protection had become too much of a burden. I had no intention of hiding. It would be no use. So, taking advantage of the forced situation, I became the face of deceived husbands. I gave my contact information to my confidential informants and asked them to pass the word on. A few weeks later, two of the brave, devoted husbands contacted me. When it became known that I was not going to reveal names, several more people contacted me, including one couple who survived this hell and are now united in bloodlust. I had no intention of seeking bloodshed, so I hoped they would not be disappointed by my more restrained approach. We spoke with journalists on condition of anonymity for my partners. The only name that could appear in print was mine as the story slowly leaked out. Unfortunately for Linda, this revealed her infidelity and caused her embarrassment. I sympathized with her, but not too much. Adding to Linda's confusion, a situation arose that occurred a couple of months after February 29th. In all the confusion that followed her expulsion from home, she had lost sight of the calendar. She was pregnant. After Tommy was born, I had a vasectomy, so we never had to worry about condoms. Linda and that bastard didn't use condoms either. I contacted my lawyer and explained the situation. Although I had not yet started the divorce process and wasn't sure if I would or when, I certainly didn't want my name to appear on the birth certificate of another man's child. He said he could get a court order requiring a DNA test. Linda was now in a terrible state. I plunged the knife deeper. "Here, Linda, we had a special evening. It seems like it was really special. What a wonderful experience for you. What did you say? It was supposed to be just one time. It was just one night in so many years of happiness. I had to do it to survive. It looks like this will be a memory for a lifetime for you. Every day you look into this child's eyes, you will remember your special evening. Never bring this child to my house. And it starts right now with the bastard in yours womb. I can't control what happens when children are in your parents' house, but this child will not get a bedroom in my house. Don't bring this child to my house for holidays and birthdays. Find a babysitter or just don't come. That bastard will watch his baby. When I come to your parents to pick up Emma and Tommy for a trip to the playground, I don't want to see that little bastard cry to go with his brother and sister. Keep that child away from me. Otherwise, you won't like the changes that will come to our free and easy child exchange system that you currently enjoy with Emma and Tommy. You'll see them a lot less than you do now, so figure something out. You're a stupid bastard." The child was born and put up for adoption at the end of November. A DNA court order confirmed Lavaliere's paternity. Mark and Linda signed the papers putting their son up for adoption, and the matter was over. He had no interest in the child and was glad to avoid the problem, but he regretted his decision. Linda was unable to fully devote herself to raising a new child. Her life was already full of storms and stress. She needed to get back on track to be a part-time mother to her first two children. She needed to maintain her sanity to cope with her new part-time job, where she almost immediately became the target of gossip. She had to come to terms with the fact that she was living under her parents' roof, which in itself made her feel uncomfortable. She felt that her father was looking at her like she was a slutty little girl. Her mother was more reserved in her disappointment, but Linda knew. She knew. My little group of victims of Lavaliere was nothing more than a club of interests. We couldn't do anything public since I was the only one who was ready for publicity. But soon events developed faster than we could have imagined. Lavaliere hit on the wrong woman. This happened in January, almost a year after he intervened in my family. From what I have been able to gather, Lavaliere has destroyed 2 more marriages since our special evening took place. He then targeted the wrong woman. Andrew and Jessica Lacastro were a young couple, a little younger than Linda and I, but already with 5 children. They were quiet, white-collar workers. The children turned her from a thin girl into a curvaceous beauty. The Lacastros were celebrating Andrew's boss's birthday with several other couples associated with the firm. With the constant bustle of people leaving the table to dance, go to the bar, and go to the restroom, it took a while to notice that someone had been missing for a few minutes. In such an atmosphere, Lavalier distracted Jessica from their group. He led her to a secluded place on the dance floor. Lavalier began to attract unwanted attention in recent months, and he decided not to put on any more shows like he did with Linda. By the time poor Andrew realized something was wrong, Jessica was already in the hotel room across the street. At least she had the decency to text her husband that she had met a friend and would see him later that evening at home. Andrew did what he usually did when he found himself in an unfamiliar situation. He called his uncle. Carmine Capobianco was his mother's older brother. Andrew has become very distant from the life his mother knew in her youth. Sofia Capobianco wanted nothing to do with that life and that family. She married an architect, one David Lacastro, from a noble family. So when Andrew needed traditional fatherly guidance, his father was always there. But there was an unspoken rule. Any questionable or dangerous matters were discussed with Uncle Carmine. Carmine was not a man of honor, but he always knew someone. And if he didn't know, then he knew someone who knew. This did not mean that he immediately directed you into the world of the mafia. If you had to manage a portfolio, there was always an honest banker who turned a blind eye, or an accountant who knew how to keep two books. If confidential medical attention was needed, there was a surgeon who performed legal operations all year, but once a year he might find himself in a makeshift operating room in an abandoned factory, pulling a bullet out of someone's back. When something or someone needed to disappear, there was a junkyard manager who would leave the key at the gate and go out for a 3-hour lunch. So Uncle Carmine began to contact those he trusted and who trusted him. If you thought you could escape the mafia, you were mistaken. The cemeteries are full of people who thought the witness protection program would keep them safe. If my sources are reliable, Carmine Capobianco has made contact not only with me, but also with resentful husbands in the city, including some I didn't even know about. I was only able to find a few contacts through my efforts with cash and gift cards. Uncle Carmine didn't use gift cards. This man seemed to have a talent for making people open up to him. As if by pure chance, a few weeks after Lavalier seduced Jessica Lacastro, Linda and I received free tickets to dinner at one of the best restaurants in the city. The invitation stated that I was required to bring my estranged wife with me as a plus one. The invitation clearly stated that the dinner was being hosted by Carmine Capobianco. Everyone in the city knew this name. The concept of an offer you can't refuse was well known. I conveyed a message to Carmine that if this had anything to do with the incident I had heard about Andrew Lacastro, he could count on my full support in any legal endeavors. The message returned to me was that he would consider me fully supportive if I ensured a full turnout, and that those who attended would not regret it later. Ah, that good old Uncle Carmine. I contacted the restaurant to confirm that it was legal and to make the required reservation. On the appointed evening, Linda and I arrived on time. She didn't wear a blue dress. It was a simple black skirt and a white cashmere top. Even in such simplicity, it attracted attention. The husbands from my group were there. I met their wives for the first time. It turned out that only 2 couples refused to come. One couple was nervous, and the other wife was in a new marriage and had no intention of going to dinner with her ex. One guy came alone because his wife moved and they couldn't find her. The event was bright and memorable. People at other tables who had nothing to do with us were forced to pay attention. Lots of witnesses. Carmine set up cameras and recorded a pre-dinner acceptance speech. Everyone felt uneasy, but we were told that one day we would be glad we came. He said it might not happen tomorrow or even next week, but someday we will look back on this evening with pleasure. The theme from The Godfather almost started playing in my head as he spoke. Well then, it was as if his words were prophetic. The next day it was all over the news. That night, while we were all in full view and being filmed in a restaurant, several fake couples were being seduced in another club in the city. These were probably Carmine's friends. When Lavalier left the club with his next victim, they threw a pillowcase over his head and quickly took him away in a bread delivery truck. Everyone who was at Carmine's dinner had an alibi. The few who did not come were interrogated by the police. The kidnapping of sports hero Marc Lavalier dominated the news for days. There are no traces left of him. Linda was shocked. She no longer held any tender feelings for this man. The complete chaos that her life had become destroyed any nostalgia for her special evening. This has been my main goal since I began developing my strategy while on my knees and vomiting in a hotel room toilet on February 29th last year. I stopped by to drop the kids off at Ed, Gina, and Linda's on a Friday after school, a week after Carmine's dinner and Lavalier's disappearance. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. My phone made a notification sound as I pulled into their driveway. I saw the message and my blood froze. I called Linda out to the car to talk while her parents took the children into the house. They were glad that Linda and I were talking at least in some way. I showed her the text message. To you and your guest who attended Carmine's dinner last week, this message is for your and your guest's eyes only. You are both required to strictly follow all instructions. No deviations will be tolerated, no exceptions. You both must be at your husband's house on Sunday, 2 days later, at 15 o'clock. There should be no one else in the house. Hire a nanny for the children or look after your grandmother. Sit in a place where you cannot be disturbed and no one outside can overhear. From 15 o'clock to 15:05, a newspaper will be thrown onto your lawn from a newspaper delivery van. Watch the machine and pick up the newspaper immediately. Do not break it. Do not open the newspaper on the table in the house. Open the envelope taped to the inside of the newspaper. Inside you will find a DVD. Do not open the DVD wrapper until you have read the instructions that came with it. Make sure your DVD player is working and ready to use tonight. If not, buy one tomorrow and make sure it's ready by Sunday. This is all. Linda and I looked at each other with real fear in our eyes. For the first time since her betrayal, we found ourselves on the same side of the issue. For the first time since that night, it was Jim and Linda against the world, and it brought me strange comfort. For the first time in almost a year, I felt at home. I felt right with the woman I loved, and this worried me. There were too many unresolved questions. I never stopped loving her, but my trust was seriously damaged. But being her friend seemed more natural to me than being her enemy. Hating her felt good on the first day, but over the course of a year, it wore me down. We have made all the necessary preparations. I had lunch at the Perrots on Sunday with Linda and the kids. We told Ed and Gina that Linda and I were leaving for the day and would be back for dinner. We told Emma and Tommy to be obedient to their grandparents. Ed and Gina smiled at each other. They were happy with any degree of détente between Linda and me. We returned home at 13 o'clock. Home. Okay, Jim, take your time. My home. We tested the DVD player. Linda turned on a romantic comedy. Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, some of that. I knew what she was doing. I'm not a fool. Oh well, I let her snuggle. We drank coffee. I skipped the wine because we needed to be on guard for when the newspaper landed on our lawn. She became too affectionate, and I carefully pushed her away so as not to hurt her feelings. She giggled and calmed down. A few minutes before 3, I stood up and took a position at the front window, the same one from which I saw Lavalier bring Linda home. I felt a slight twinge of PTSD, but I held on. At 15:02, I saw a van with a newspaper delivery sign driving slowly past the house opposite. Then he turned around a block down the street and slowly rolled up to our house. Lynn, I'm coming out. They're here. I walked out the door just in time to see the newspaper land on the lawn. The van door barely opened, so I didn't see anyone. I carried the newspaper into the house and put it on the kitchen table. Linda looked over my shoulder as I pulled the newspaper out of the plastic bag and removed the rubber band that held it in place. Inside was an envelope with bubble wrap, and inside that was a square paper envelope. The paper sleeve included a warning to first remove the instructions from the sleeve, leave the disc in the packaging and read the instructions completely before opening the disc packaging. I took out the instructions and smoothed the paper out on the table. Do not open the package at this time. Turn on your TV and DVD player first. Make sure your equipment is ready for use before opening the package. The disc may be damaged. If exposed to air, it will begin to decompose immediately. Once you remove this disc from its sealed packaging, you must play it immediately. Do not pause, fast forward, slow down, or rewind this disc. Do not record this on your phone or any other device. Make sure that no home surveillance devices are recording images of this disc. You will not want to be caught with the images contained on this disc. You may dispose of the disc and all packaging after viewing. Please. Linda and I were shocked. We walked silently into the living room. The TV was still on. We pulled the romantic comedy out of the tray. I read the instructions again to make sure I didn't miss anything. I kept the disc away from our faces as I opened the package. Who knows? Poison or something else. Who knows? I inserted the disc into the tray and pressed play. Only the timestamp of the video appeared on the screen, ominously, against a black background. The date stamp showed that whatever this disc contained was dated 2 days ago. Friday, 2 p.m. Since we were in the Central Time Zone, it was 13 o'clock here. I received a notification on my phone that the disc was coming at 4 p.m. Central Time, so everything on the disc was time-stamped 3 hours before that notification. Suddenly, a light appeared on the screen, and a distant picture of a bed in the middle of a huge room appeared in the frame. The room seemed almost more important than the bed itself. The walls were brick and the ceilings were high. It appeared to be a very old building, perhaps from the Civil War. The two men then entered the room through a door in the back wall. Their faces were covered with surgical masks, and their hands were in gloves. They didn't say a word, but seemed to communicate using hand signals. One of the men stopped next to a bed on which, at first glance, lay several devices that I could not immediately recognize. The second man disappeared from view as if he had moved behind the camera. The man by the bed made a hand gesture, and the camera began to move. As the brick wall in the background became less prominent, the bed came into focus, and the figure lying on it and the eaves leading to that figure became clearer. The camera stopped shaking, and finally the picture became still. The camera hovered about 8 feet above the bed, pointed straight down at the figure lying on it. The camera then focused, and the patient's face became clearly visible. Mark Lavalier. He was asleep, tied and shackled to a bed that I would rather call a gurney. Linda gasped, and frankly, so did I. She began to tremble. I hugged her. I really calmed her down, something I never thought I'd do again. The men continued to signal each other with their hands. Then one of the doctors, if you can call them that, attached a syringe to a port in one of the eaves and injected the substance. Gradually, the patient began to come to his senses. The doctors continued to signal to each other. Lavalier slowly opened his eyes and slowly began to regain consciousness. The sheet covering his lower body was lifted, allowing doctors access to reveal his bandaged torso. They continued their work, and other than a groan that might have been made by a patient regaining consciousness, it was relatively quiet. The position of the sheet made it difficult for Lavalier to see clearly what was happening while they removed the bandages. Linda and I looked at each other, breathing tensely but feeling as if we had run a marathon. Finally, the large wad of bandages was removed from his stomach. The doctors then removed the sheet completely, leaving the patient completely naked and allowing him to see the area they were working on for the first time. And when the doctors left the room through the same door they entered through, the camera recorded it clearly. He looked down and saw their work. He screamed in horror and began to struggle with the chains. The screen went dark, displaying the date and time again. Then the numbers disappeared. I was overcome with conflicting feelings of nausea and triumph. Linda was close to fainting. Remembering that the disc was self-destructing, I quickly pressed play again. But 5 minutes into the 12-minute video, the disc began to break down, and playback did not continue until the big moment. We had to trust our eyes that we really saw what we saw. Nothing more could be seen. so I threw the whole package in the trash along with the disc. When I returned, Linda was sitting on the couch, crying. I didn't like it. She then explained that her tears were caused by something else. Jim, I'm not crying for him. I'm not sad for him. Fuck him. I'm crying because I feel liberated. I feel like it's over. I never went back to him and never intended to. Except for signing the paper's adoption, I had nothing to do with him anymore after that night of stupidity. But it's official. He can't hurt you and me anymore. He can't destroy families and leave children in broken homes. I thought you would kill me that day. Now I understand what you did. You made me pay. I had to lie to pay the price. I am so sorry for what I did to you, to us, to our family. Expensive. Tuesday after school, I was at Ed and Gina's and had lunch with Linda and the kids. We watched the evening news. The big news was the discovery of missing NFL player Mark Lavalier chained to a bed in an abandoned factory in Brooklyn, New York. He was reportedly surgically mutilated, but was expected to survive. They did not specify what exactly his injuries were. They have no idea how he ended up 200 miles from where he was kidnapped. I guess Uncle Carmine knew someone with a plane. He clearly knew someone with an abandoned building. And that day, a specially selected team of surgeons did their job. Lavalier will no longer be able to have children. I'm sure he now regrets signing the adoption papers. So what to do with Linda? The pain that her betrayal caused was the result of my love for her. If I didn't care, it wouldn't hurt. So now should I look for a new woman? The one I know nothing about. The new woman can cheat on me too. Oddly enough, I don't think Linda will cheat again. The next Lavalier who tries to hit on her will give her visions of a chainsaw cutting up our bedroom, being imprisoned in a bathtub of water, being scrubbed with brushes, and a torn blue dress burning in a fire along with her rings. I know how to weigh the odds. If you put 1,000 women in a room and one of them was Linda, and asked me to guess which one was least likely to cheat on me, I would choose Linda every time. That fateful night, as I threw up in that hotel room, abandoned, I knew that if I could get enough payback for her stupidity, I could get her back on my terms and never have to worry again. Now the world is in balance for the first time since February 29th. The children returned to their rooms. Ed and Gina are enjoying their empty nest again. That bitch Dee Molloy and her cuckold husband Dave disappeared from our lives. Mrs. Porter has returned to her flexible schedule, and Mark Lavalier now pees while sitting. Life is always a game of luck. Getting rid of Linda might look good on paper. She deserved to live under a bridge for her betrayal. She deserved to be put on a pedestal for giving me Emma and Tommy. She deserved my bitterness for the humiliation she brought me. She earned my admiration for the way she pulled herself out of the abyss. She earned my wariness with her lapse in judgment, but then she earned my respect by the way she steadfastly accepted my retribution and recognized it as fair. I bought her a simple gold ring to replace the diamond set that was buried forever. She didn't want to wear those jewels, stained by infidelity, anymore. She now saw them the same way I did, defiled by treason and unworthy of our new path forward. She treasured the new gold ring. I didn't have to tell her directly that it was better than she deserved. She knew it, and so she became the good wife I never thought I would have again. She told the truth and no longer hid from her guilt. I never had to bring up the issue of refreshing her again. She kept her promises even when it was inconvenient. I can't remember how many times I heard her tell the kids that she couldn't do this or that because she promised Dad something. Once, being a bad wife, she was a bad mother. Today, she was a good mother and finally understood how to be a good wife. A good wife deserved to live in my house. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.